Greetings and welcome to Interim HR's very first session covering Contract Recruiter. Today we're focusing on our Contract Recruiter because, as you'll find with your career with us, that this is about 60% of all the contract work we do. Contract recruiters are incredibly important in an organization. They come in all different sizes, they come in all different shapes. By that I mean they have different levels of expertise. And the role of a contract recruiter is not as straightforward as you'd think. So today I wanted to cover some of the basics of contract recruiters and let you understand how they do range from dollar amounts, $25, $30 per hour, all the way up to over $100 an hour, and what makes them worth that $100 an hour versus those individuals that are at the $20 or $25 an hour. The first part we're going to cover is sourcing. Sourcing is the process in which a contract recruiter finds the individual, not evaluates the individual, but just finds the individual to be evaluated. The most traditional means that we have for sourcing, which is the most common as well, are job boards, called traditional means. We have Career Builder and Monster are two of the main ones. With an organization, the way they work it is they set up a corporate account. When you apply for a job, your resume, along with everybody else's, goes in a giant inbox. In some cases, Career Builder and Monster can give a single position hundreds of applicants every day. Whether it's IT, accounting, finance, or even human resources, this inbox full of these resumes can be quite troublesome. The reason being is that imagine you're a contract recruiter and you have 150 resumes you receive that day. We call something the 1-100 ratio. The 1-100 ratio means for every 100 resumes you receive, only one person is actually qualified. This is very true in just about every single industry. Sometimes it goes up exponentially. For instance, if you use the dreaded Craigslist, that number looks a little bit more like 1 to 1,000. I'm actually not joking. So, we've just talked about the traditional means, which is very good. All recruiters are familiar with this, and quite frankly, this is the easy part to the recruiting role. The second area defines a little bit more of what a contract recruiter really does if they're unique. Social media is a very important area for people to have a good network in order to find individuals that may not be available on Career Builder or Monster. A lot of contract recruiters will have thousands, if not even tens of thousands, of contacts through their LinkedIn. If they're a specialized recruiter, which we'll talk about later, for instance, they only deal with engineering, accounting, finance, HRIS, IT, their social media might be made up of primarily not only key contacts in companies, but also individuals that might be just in that field. The more people that they have as far as their LinkedIn contacts go, the more valuable they actually are as a recruiter. That is why every one of us that have LinkedIn accounts constantly have recruiters wanting to link with us. It's actually the new way, and it will be what I would refer to as most likely the future of sourcing through LinkedIn. The third way, in a very difficult group, is networking. Networking can be everything from groups that exist, networking groups to be straightforward, Facebook, which is up and coming and soon to be falling under the social media, but yet has not been perfected as far as the business aspect goes. Twitter, I have no idea how that works. Trade groups. Trade groups are very common. This is very senior level. If you are an engineer recruiter and you belong to that trade group, chances are you're going to have some great contacts. Third one is associations. This is a little bit more of the most traditional networking group available. It's not very effective. That's why I put it at the bottom. Now, we've just talked about sourcing. All recruiters are going to have some experience in sourcing. They'll all have experience in job boards and Monster. Some may have good experience in finding those alternative candidates through LinkedIn, i.e. social media. And third, a few, but not a lot, will actually have their own networking system set up. This will often, as we'll find later, will determine what level that recruiter is, whether they're specified of just using this area, whether they have a very large LinkedIn group, or they're so specialized that they actually belong to trade groups and associations and other groups of that type that make them unique to their industry. Now we've covered sourcing. The second part of the process, once you have received the 1 to 100 or 1 to 1,000, is screening those individuals. Screening is a very simple process, but very time consuming. It means you have to find the right people. The easiest way for me to describe screening is, say, if I'm looking for a contract recruiter, the following information I would have to make sure the person has. I would say, I would need a contract recruiter located in Elk Grove Village. 3 to 5 years of experience in whatever industry they have. The individual may need to speak Spanish because there's a very high population in that area. Also, the applicant tracking system. We'll get to that later, don't panic yet. Applicant tracking system might need to be something specific. The description might also include things, for instance, a full cycle recruiter, a temporary recruiter, or a sourcer only. Those are different categories we'll go over later. We've gone over sourcing, now we're going to go over screening. Screening is a process that's actually the most time-consuming, in some cases, not all. As you receive all these resumes and you reach out to all these groups, you get the resumes back from the individuals. Every resume a recruiter has to open. Imagine you spend hours every day searching the job boards or looking through the jobs you've received, reaching out through LinkedIn, or networking your groups. Once you have compiled all these resumes, it's then your responsibility as a recruiter to see who's the right candidate. Finding the right candidate is a lot more complicated than you may think. The right candidate usually entails a lot of information. Kind of a generic term, but what I mean by that is when you're looking for a candidate, a resume doesn't tell you as much as you need to know. Often, no matter what the position is, you need to see whether or not economically they're feasible. The second thing is whether or not they have the skill sets, and this is where it gets complicated. Skill sets might not only include the industry experience, last job titles, but the specific sub-skills involved in it. The more complex the job is, IT, accounting, and finance, it can take several minutes at least to look at an individual resume. Based on that information, imagine the 1 to 100 ratio, you're talking about a tremendous amount of time to even find one qualified person. It's often referred to as the beast of burden.